Hello and welcome to another video in the series Freemasonry and Satanism, a continuation of this book, which I know I may be exhausting the UFO issue, but the more I investigate it, the more insane the whole discussion is. Flying Saucers, Fact or Fiction by Max Miller. 12-year research of UFOs in our skies, revealed by the top scientists, astronomers, Air Force personnel, and technical observers. Continuing on, page 21. It's hard to believe we're up to the 6th video. 8 or 9 and 10 hours of this so far. And here we start out with Professor Hermann Oberth. For centuries, strange luminous objects, for centuries now, have been observed in the sky. They got a picture here of Stephanie Darbenhire and cousin Adrian Myers were photographing bird life near Torver, England, when they spotted and recorded the above, February 15th, 1954. And it's giving us some clues as to the propulsion of these craft. The so-called ionization and force fields make all UFO photos indistinct, experts declare. So, something to do with the propulsion or their manifestation is visible in the pictures when they look like a glowing surreal object, as described by many observers of UFO sightings. The earliest mention is found in the Latin of Finney, who called them shining shields. Up to the Second World War, about 50 reports were available. Then the phenomenon became more frequent. So that would be the Second World War and the 2 nuclear explosions in Japan that we did. The United States and the Allies with the secret scientists creating the H-bombs. Maybe it stirred a hornet's nest of the UFO alien population already living on this planet, maybe in the oceans. And some say inside the planet. Like Shambhala in the Himalayas is supposed to be an ancient, I don't know what to call them, a tribe, but race of people. As I've read in books and magazines like Nexus. Anyways, then the phenomenon became more frequent. The Allies thought they were a German secret weapon. And the Germans thought they were a weapon of the Allies. From 1947 onwards, eyewitness reports have been increasing by leaps and bounds. According to Air Marshal Lord Downing, there were already more than 10,000 reports in 1953. So prior to World War II, there were 50 reports. And from 47 to 53, that's like 6 or 7 years, there were 10,000 reports. Then a lot of things changed in the planet. Early 60s or late 57s, the government started building underground facilities with the RAND Corporation. Apparently all over the country. Richard Sauter book, PhD. They have these very interesting tools with which to dig in the tunnels. Why such a serious effort to do this? money that it cost is beyond belief. Meanwhile, we know that they had several crashes of the economy where somebody bought up everybody's property from coast to coast when they brought the crashes about for pennies on the dollar. So was it the secret government behind the government that wound up buying everything on pennies on the dollar when they crashed everything? At least 8 to 10 times since 1913, when the Bank of Germany and England, the Rothschilds, Illuminati people, who also made the deal with the Balfour Agreement to get the Palestinians land in Palestine before they named it Israel. So, I was looking for some more pictures in this book. And then around the same time that this report, the 10,000 sightings since 1947 to 53, the Club of Rome and other books were published that there were too many people on the planet. And it seems that that's the top priority of the United Nations. And they have those USA Georgia Guidestones that say they want 500 million. And then I did talk about this book over and over and over, the report from Iron Mountain, which details a program to create fear in the people from environmental issues, global warming, weather issues, asteroids striking, coming towards Earth or other planetary bodies, pole shifting, terrorism issues, and plague issues, and all kinds of other propaganda to keep the people in line. Deceiving the people. Why? So getting back to this book in 1953, 10,000 sightings between 47 and 53. And prior to World War II, there were about 50, according to what this guy says. The phenomena are usually described as discs, sometimes as balls or ellipsoids. Occasionally, reports say that several of the discs appear to bunch together. The largest in the center, the smallest at the ends, so that a cigar-shaped body is formed, which flies away at great speed. It has also been observed that occasionally a cigar stops and breaks up into single disc. That's interesting. So a whole lot of discs could, I guess, stack up like a roll of coins and turn into a cigar craft. Sounds kind of weird. But then again, if it's interdimensional beings, then, the craft are actually beings disguised as craft. This is the hypothesis. In the sunlight, which appears to be stronger than the illuminating power of the discs themselves, the discs seem to have a metallic gleam. By night, they appear a dark orange or cherry red. When hovering, they do not glow very much, but as more driving power is needed, the brightness increases and appears to be yellow and then greenish. And I don't read everything in this book. I just highlight some paragraphs and sentences. Buy the book if you want to read it all. The greenish yellow and then green like a copper flame. At highest speeds, a blinding white. Sometimes they seem suddenly to light up or blot out. So here's Amy Mitchell, author, The Truth About Flying Saucers. We've got that book, I think. Note, the majority of the UFO sighting reports found in Major Keyhole's book have been paraphrased from the official U.S. Air Force records and were cleared through the Air Force Press Desk, Department of Defense. With that said, I have a surprise, something new I found. Well, during my research, I have discovered some new documents. We've been reviewing the NICAP reports, which we will. But we have now something called the Journal of UFO History, a publication of the Donald E. Kehoe Archives, Volume 1, Number 5, November 2004. So that would have been after 2001, 9/11. And this issue, Congress and UFOs, the Air Force Project and the Colorado UFO Study, Major Kehoe and the Air Force, Ohio Sheriff's Sighting, 1966, Dialogue with Barry Greenwood, Chronology of Early UFO History, and Alexander Mabane in Memoriam. So, moving on to the second page of this document, Journal of UFO History. You can go look these up on the internet. I found this for free. And this issue features an interview with a highly regarded UFO researcher, Barry Greenwood, co-author with Lawrence Fawcett of the important book, Clear Intent, The Government Cover-Up of the UFO Experience, Prentice Hall, 1984. Government cover-up. I could talk about cover-ups, like one now is a sky spraying of chemicals in our sky. What's really going on? HARP system transmissions, facilities built all over the world. You can go online and see pictures of their locations. What's going on? Looming World War III? What's going on? Talk about crashing the dollar, the stock market, and martial law in America, and staffing up and arming up even the post office, FEMA camps, and Ebola plague crises, they say, may be coming, and everyone will be forced to be vaccinated with God knows what, and the United Nations with its highest priority overpopulation of the world, implementing Agenda 21, and apparently the Rainbow Coalition of the New Age, which is going to bring us a Luciferian religious doctrine, do as thou wilt, according to Aleister Crowley. And all of this, of course, is part of the gay agenda and the Hollywood movie shows, football halftime shows, Olympic opening, Lady Gaga, Miley Cyrus, Neil Patrick Harris, Katy Perry, Madonna, Beyonce, and all the satanic shows you see on TV with the triangles and the eye and the devil sign, even by President Bush and the Pope, and the 3 6s. And the Pope now saying we're having a new one world order, one world religion. What's all this have to do with UFOs and aliens and government cover-ups? It's obviously all connected. But Congress in the past did show considerable interest, and political household names like Lyndon Johnson and Gerald Ford were among those paying attention. Well, if they were paying attention, I suppose we should pay attention. On some occasions in the 1950s and the 1960s, references to UFOs were inserted in the congressional record of individual members. So again, if it was in the congressional record and they were having hearings, it may be wise for us citizens to pay attention. Aside from passing remarks and brief discussions, during earlier congressional hearings, the House Armed Services Committee convened the first formal hearing on UFOs on April 5th, 1966, as a direct response to the highly publicized UFO sighting wave, then in progress, and widespread journalistic criticism of the U.S. Air Force UFO project, On July 29, 1968, the House Science and Aeronautics Committee held what they politely called a symposium, at which a half-dozen scientists testified and several more submitted statements for the record. The ground rules were that the Colorado Project should not be discussed or criticized directly because they had not yet completed their work. In conjunction with the University of Colorado UFO study, Lynn Cote at the Library of Congress compiled a sizable annotated biography on the subject in 1969. In 1976, Marcia Smith, a specialist in aerospace at the Congressional Research Service, prepared a comprehensive report entitled The UFO Enigma. It was revised and updated by George G. Havis. In 1983, as report number 83-205 SPR 143, 143 pages. Be wise to probably go look that up. The UFO Enigma. The report contains sections on the types of sightings, witness credibility, pre-1947 and reports, history of the Air Force UFO investigations, and international perspectives with appendices including selected case summaries. And here's the selected biography here. So you got the House Armed Services Committee, 89th Congress, Session 2, Unidentifying Objects. House Science and Aeronautics Committee, 90th Congress, Symposium on Identified Flying Objects, 1968. Lynn Cote, UFOs and Related Subjects, Library of Congress, 1969. Marcia Smith, The UFO Enigma, Library of Congress, 1976. Nightcaps, UFO, A New Look, Washington, D.C. Symposium, 1968, 1969. Richard Hall, The UFO Evidence, 1964. So again, you know, right up to 1970 and after, this was a serious business. All these sightings. It wasn't imagination, so what was it? And again, I hate to continue to remember these different other subjects and book reviews I've done, but we did do this book, Night Siege. I have a whole video on this, you can go back and find it. But from 1983 and 1984, huge football field size craft, V-shaped craft, and other ones that were blotting out the sky, the stars. You'd look up and you wouldn't see any stars in the sky, but up to the right you would, and up to the left you would. Some craft was so huge, and the people were pulled over the highways in western New York, Connecticut, Hudson Valley. So we did a whole video on this book. Go take a look. The back of it, I'll just read one little portion here. Some say it's larger than a football field. The color seems to be dark metallic gray, with a brilliant flashing colored lights that form a V. It is unclear whether this is one object or several. One thing is clear. Something is in the air above the homes, the highways, the ponds, the very backyards of one of the most densely populated suburban areas in the USA. What is going on? My favorite saying. What is going on? The Hudson Valley and UFO sightings. The size of football fields in 83 and 84. I am aware that there are a lot of military installations And of course, it's just south of Canada. Plenty of places to have these manufacturing facilities. That's where on the coast of New Hampshire and Massachusetts is where prior to World War II they were manufacturing all the submarines, and during World War II. So could some of those huge manufacturing facilities be producing huge UFO craft? And why would they keep it from the people? And why would they be having from the United Nations report from Iron Mountain plotting to deceive the people, rid the world of capitalism into a controlled socialistic society, i.e. slavery, want to get rid of 90% of the population, and building underground facilities? Meanwhile, the entire world was controlled by the banksters. Everybody knows that. 1913, Christmas holiday, the Rothschilds sent his ambassadors to meet with Woodrow Wilson to take over the United States money supply, creating the Federal Reserve, which then, at that time, the United States was no longer operating as its own sovereign nation. Whoever controls the money, as Lord Rothschild says, controls the country. And also, Mr. Rothschild made a deal with London, UK, and said that, and this is after they created the Federal Reserve in 1913, that we will help you in the war with Germany in 1914 in June, 6 months later, if you give us the Palestinians land to create the State of Israel. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes. This is World War I. These people, the Freemasonic lodges and other occultic groups and secret Luciferian occult pagan banksters, Zionism, even the Vatican, and it was in this game, i.e. this is all called communist, if you don't know, which is seriously controlled socialism, also called future slavery, like Hunger Games the movie and Divergent. And all the politicians and leaders of the world and the people who make it somewhere, like all our Hollywood stars show us with all their symbols, they joined the Illuminati. They brag about being in the Illuminati. Some of them cry and confess that they sold their souls. But what's this got to do with UFOs? Well, if these people control the world and they're digging the tunnels with billions of dollars and writing books about controlling the growth, and report from Iron Mountain and the Protocols of Zion, go look those up, it describes creating a world of confusion with all these crazy issues we're facing today, right out of the Protocols of Zion. Free online, you can find a copy. Anyways, back to this book. Around the same time all that craziness was going on, U.S. Air Force intelligence officers saw UFO formation in 1947. The end of World War II, which was ending in 45, 46, right? Before it was all over. And then they had all the hearings of Versailles hearings over there in Europe, handing Germany a bill for what, 135 billion for war reparation damages that Germany and those people that had been bombed to smithereens could never pay. So that set the stage for World War II, putting those people under such a duressful situation. And all the hearings and all that were controlled and organized and controlled by the, I hate to say it, but the Zionist Jewish folks, the banksters, Rothschild. Apparently, according to some of the books I read, they swarmed over there like flies to feast on the bones of the German people and sent them the bill for $136 or more billion after World War I. Which, you know, the United States was leaning towards Germany's side until the Rothschilds, I guess, took over the 1913 Federal Reserve, controlled the USA, and they controlled Mr. President Wilson, and secretly behind the USA people's back conspired to get the USA into the World War I, and they switched from supporting Germany to supporting England, who had made a deal with the Rothschilds and the Balfour Agreement to give them the land of the Palestines. Hence the chaos and insanity we've been experiencing for the last 100 years. And it doesn't seem like it's going to end well. So at the end of World War II, a staff intelligence officer at Rapid City Air Force Base, South Dakota, later named Ellsworth Base in mid-August 1947, saw a formation of about 12 luminous elliptical objects flying in formation. He was a major in charge of all air crew interrogations for the 28th Bomb Wing. I might add a little tidbit here that's interesting. Apparently Hitler, if you read some of the material about Hitler and his organizations into the occult, they had met some beings that lived on Earth in secret places who had higher, greater technologies, and they were into the psychic research, seances, communicating with the other side, the dark side of the spiritual realm. Like Nikola Tesla said, he got a lot of his information from visions and dreams and auditory hearing and all that. So Hitler was apparently, and his associates, in cahoots with some kind of alien beings, getting his science for the new technologies of the rockets and saucers and Bellcraft and other devices they were inventing. So I'm just wondering if after World War II, that these, like it says here, 12 luminous elliptical objects flying in formation, if these entities, earthbound or interdimensional, whatever, that Hitler was in cahoots with to get the new one world order that Hitler talked about. He's got a whole book on New World Order. I ought to show you that. I have a copy. And I just wonder if after World War II, these entities got into cahoots with NATO, the USA, the Pentagon, and these were the UFOs that all of a sudden were sighted over the USA, along with Project Paperclip, where we brought all the German scientists to the USA in secret. Didn't let the USA people know that we were bringing the Germans over here and building houses for them and facilities, employing them, making them citizens, paying them very well. So the whole German behind-the-scenes technology advancements was moved to the USA, and the Russians got their scientists and their documents, and England got some, and Brazil, and France, and everybody was scurrying over there after World War II to get what they could from the factories and underground facilities. Anyways, so 12 luminous things in 1947, right after World War II. Sighted soon after dark, the objects were flying a tight diamond-shaped formation stacked down from the lead. Another thought occurred to me. With Hitler with the gas chambers and eliminating lots of people, and now the United States with the FEMA camps, supposedly with gas facilities and guillotines, and the government, even the post office, buying buildings. Is there going to be a mass reduction in population done the same way? Fair enough question. They were in a shallow descent, then leveled off, made a large radius turn to the right, and started climbing away. As they began climbing, they appeared to accelerate rapidly. They seemed to have a yellow-white luminous glow. Air Technical Intelligence Interrogation Report 5, July 1948, formally classified secret. As I said, this document you can go find free online. I did. I'm just continuing to discover stuff, more evidence. Sightings and editorials led to Air Force shakeup, Colorado study. Among the immediate cause of the shakeup of the Project Blue Book were highly publicized sightings in Gerald Ford's home state of Michigan during March and April 17, 1966. Ravenna, Ohio close encounter incident, when deputy sheriffs confronted a brightly glowing craft-like object, then pursued it into Pennsylvania. The Air Force blamed the sightings on planet Venus. Daily newspapers all over the country had been criticizing the Air Force editorial, some of them poking fun. And now I'm reminded of the research or the report from the Congress, the government, about Kennedy's killing, which was a big joke. And then I'm reminded of the reports done by the government on 9/11 was a big joke. So apparently the Air Force just wanted to criticize and ridicule anybody who talked about UFOs that people were seeing by the thousands. And in that one case, 1983 to 1984, 2 years, interstates in Connecticut, upstate West Massachusetts, upstate New York. On the interstate, people were pulled over, football field craft in the sky. So does the UFO Pentagon have these kinds of craft? One would have to think so, from my research. Not little green men coming here from another planet like the Palladians telling us that having sex will solve everything and making love is the answer. Meanwhile, in the Middle East and everywhere else, they're just mass murdering people. So I'm not buying the little Palladian love fest. Daily newspapers all over the country had been criticizing the Air Force editorially. Some of them poking fun. The Houston Post, March 31, quoted a scientist. Some of the explanations are now getting as interesting as the sightings. So the explanations are as interesting as the sightings. The Richmond News Leader, March 23, said, unfortunately, the Air Force continues its policy of obfuscation. You probably know how to say that better than me. On March 27, national syndicated columnist Rusko Drummond called for the establishment of either a presidential or congressional panel to appraise the report on all future and present evidence of what's going on. Time to get the facts on flying saucers. Richard Drummond, March 27, 1966, Philadelphia Inquirer. Moving on, Gerald Ford news release. Okay, so Gerald Ford, the Air Force has informed me it is arranging for a study by high-caliber scientists of some of the UFO sightings which have never been explained. This study will be placed under the contract soon after July 1, start of the new fiscal year. It will be carried out by a university which has no close ties with the Air Force so that the findings will be completely objective, Air Force officials tell me. I would have preferred a congressional investigation, and I'm not reading everything here, I'm just reading my highlighted portions as usual. Most of the stuff I pre-read before I do the video. I would have preferred a congressional investigation with witnesses to include reliable persons. From among those who say they have seen UFOs, I still think this would be beneficial, but the UFO study by a panel of scientists with the report to be made public is a step in the right direction. And that sounds like a bunch of baloney to me. And it should sound like a bunch of baloney to you, because we know behind the scenes the Bank of Germany, England, and then now the Federal Reserve is owned by the Rothschilds, the Illuminati. Fritz Springmeier's book, The Illuminati, I showed you. These blue blood aristocrat related to the presidents and queens of the world, under the guise of these lodges in every one of our city streets. And look at the buildings they have, like this building on this one. And they were directly opposed to the Christian church, aggressively. They have lodges all over the world, everywhere, even Haiti, India, Argentina, you name it. Montana, Hawaii, Florida, Alaska. I'm reading some of the names of the lodges. Puerto Rico, Philippine Islands, Canal Zone, District of Columbia, Jacksonville, Florida, everywhere, Japan. So these people control all the the high offices in all the countries. These are the Scottish Rite, York Rite, Rosicrucian, Council of Foreign Relations, Heritage Foundation, Carnegie Foundation. All these organization foundations were taken over. It's all a control network all over the world. Hollywood's involved. A lot of the people that wind up being the senators and representatives are repeat family members. All the presidents, most of them, according to Fritz Springmeier, have been related to each other or the one or another king in Europe. And even Roosevelt said, presidents are not elected, presidents are selected. So what I'm trying to say, this appeasement of this, telling the public they're going to do a UFO investigation and report to the public, you know the public's going to get the same kind of document they got for 9/11. Kennedy's killing. Accuracy of Keyhole, book endorsed. So Major Donald Keyhole was a major player in the NICAD reports and wrote some books. And they tried to ridicule him, shoot him down, said he was writing science fiction, all that stuff. So a lot of people have come out and said his material is authentic, including some Air Force spokesman personnel who later lost their jobs. It's like Obama letting go a lot of our generals and major leaders and all of our militaries right now who control the nukes and everything. Who knows who they're replacing these people with? It's a scary subject. Look it up. Hundreds of people. Furthermore, the Air Force knew this and was concealing the truth from the public. To further embarrass the Air Force, both Albert Chopp, the Air Force press desk representative, who had made cases available to Major Keyhole, and Captain Edward Rupert, chief of Project Blue Book, that was the government's official public face UFO reporting site, where they covered everything up. Confirmed the accuracy of Keyhole's reporting of the Air Force cases. In a telegram sent to the book's publisher, Rupert authenticated the information contained in the book. I've read this book, and to the best of my knowledge, Rupert said, the accounts of the UFOs related in it are correct. He stated the conclusions reached, however, were those of Mr. Keyhole. And I understand Mr. Rupert lost his job after that. The letter went even further and expressed the open-minded attitude towards Major Keyhole's extraterrestrial conclusion. If the apparently controlled maneuvers reported by many competent observers are correct, he said, then the only remaining possibility is the interplanetary answer. During 1951 and 1952, UFOs were repeatedly tracked on military and civilian radar. All over the United States, Air Force interceptors were sent up to investigate. Even the shallowest citizen out there. Low IQ, uneducated, even the shallowest of us. Comprehending with stuff I'm talking about in all these hours of the UFO subject should cause some kind of alarm. This is something that can't be ignored. It can't be ignored that they want to get rid of the population according to the Georgia USA Guidestones and the United Nations program. And spokesman, secretary recently in one of my recent videos, saying that global warming was not a real threat, but used to try to get rid of, and they're doing it, they're not giving up, of capitalism, which means we're communism, corporate controlled fascism, microchipped controlled socialism. Any way you want to put it, it's slavery. Like I said, the lowest of us, of our mental capacity, the most shallow, the most apathetic of us, just getting this stuff I'm reading, hours and hours. Sometimes the objects seem to play cat and mouse games, speeding in a way. I keep saying this when all these sightings, it's like these craft are playing cat and mouse with even the airlines with passengers on board. That one we talked about, the governor. So they were intentionally trying to get attention and get in the news to cause concern or observational belief and think it was aliens, which is one of the theories that they're going to fake an alien attack to get the world under the New World Order, New Age. Then slowing down again until the jet caught up and suddenly repositioning itself behind the inceptor. These cases remain among the most puzzling and inexplicable on record. You think you got UFOs playing cat and mouse with airlines and ships and people in their trucks? What's going on? UFO sightings in the Southwest and Midwest United States in summer 1965 had already stimulated widespread newspaper coverage and inquiring editorial commentary. When in March 1966, Michigan and other Midwest Northeast states were deluged with the sightings, the hue and cry had already reached a fever pitch. About dawn on April 17, 1966, in Ravenna, Ohio, Portage County Deputy Sheriffs Dale Spar and Wilbur Neff were investigating an abandoned car. Suddenly, they were confronted by a brightly glowing object that rose up out of the woods. The object then stopped overhead, illuminated the roadway around them, and emitted a humming sound. As the object wobbled from side to side, that sounds like a familiar description, the light beam to the ground waved back and forth. And again, I'm not reading all of it, I'm just reading the highlighted portion. You can go online and find this document. I'll show you the cover again. Soon the officers found themselves in a cat and mouse pursuit, the UFO alternately speeding up and pulling away and then slowing down again until they caught up. These officers saw the UFO speeding along at low altitude with the Portage County Sheriffs in pursuit, so they joined in the chase. Ultimately, the mysterious object crossed over the Ohio state line into Pennsylvania, where some local police officers also observed it. The object hovered for a while, and then just as the Air Force interceptor approached the scene, it shot straight up out of sight. So what if we in the United States, not us people, they keep everything from us, but the people who control our government who also, let me show you something. think it's important to reiterate this. I saw this article recently, March 7, 2015, with all the crazy goings-on in the world. The Georgia Guidestones and the 10 Commandments of the Coming Antichrist. Go look this up. In 1980, UFO sightings are still going on. 11, 12 years, 20 years later, they're going to have 911 to move forward the agenda of attacking the Middle East, destroying all the nations. A very strange stone formation was erected in the city of Georgia. In a city in Georgia. A very strange stone formation was erected in a city in Georgia. It has been called the Stonehenge of America. Its name is the Georgia Guidestones. The Georgia Guidestones is a granite monument erected in 1980 in the Elbert County, Georgia, in the United States. I did go down there, and I did make some videos and took some photos. But later on, somebody stole my laptop and my camera. A set of 10 guidelines is inscribed on the structure in 8 modern languages, and a shorter message is inscribed at the top of the structure in 4 ancient language scripts: Babylonia, Classic Greek, Sanskrit, and Egyptian hieroglyphics. Well, you don't have to get the book, but I think I can prove my point this way. If you read Morals and Dogma, it's everything about Egyptian hieroglyphics, Greek Sanskrit, Classical Greek, Sanskrit, Babylonia. That's what the Freemasons are all about. That's in their buildings. It's in their symbols. Morals and Dogma. It's all in here. So, one of the major platforms of the Georgia USA Guidestones is to maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. You can look this up on the internet. A lot of you probably already know this stuff. You know my opinion, everything is connected. So the 10 guidelines are, these are commandments, I guess. Not God's commandment, but Lucifer's. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. So under a controlled society, everybody will be slaves. Like the old pharaohs, or the Caesars, or the kings and queens. The families like we have now, repeating themselves in control of the Congress and House of Representatives and the presidency and large corporations. The wealthy and the rich level at the top will always be there, and the other people will have to be grateful for every morsel of food and drop of water that they get. So much for the freedoms and happiness we wish for our children under this New World Order, New Age, Georgia USA Guidestones, commandments, philosophy. Guide reproduction wisely. Now you know what the gay agenda is all about, don't you? Unite humanity with a living language. So unite all of the world's humanity with a new living language. Well, wait a minute. When the humans were building the Tower of Babel, and God dispersed the humans all over the world, and He caused everybody to have different languages. So God caused everybody to have different languages and to ununite And now that we get the Luciferian New World Order, they want everything to go back to one language and unite. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. So you won't be able to abide by your Christian religion steadfastly, because then you won't be rule your passion, faith, and tradition with tempered reason. You'll have to accept homosexuality and much more bizarre things that they are into. A lot of the elites are seriously into pedophilia, children, abuse, sexual abuse, sacrificing children. Bohemian Grove, throwing a baby in the bonfire under the gigantic owl Moloch, where our presidents and many leaders are photographed going there every year. Having the cremation of care ceremony, which is like a big witchcraft ritual with screeching and screaming in the background. Go watch the videos. Alex Jones snuck in there and videoed it. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Fair for whom? Them or us? Now, why did they buy those guillotines and those FEMA camps with gas chambers and the post office getting bullets? That doesn't sound like protect the people. You think? Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. So they could make a law saying once you get to be 55, the world doesn't need you anymore, you're not profitable anymore, you're expensive to maintain because you might get sick. So please report to your local Soylent Green factory, where you'll be turned into dog food. Your donation to the New World Order. I made that up. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. You think all the officials would pay attention to that one. Balance personal rights with social duties. There's the slavery again. Alright, so then somebody made some comments here. The first one should alarm the normal person. We have over 7 billion people on Earth right now. To be in perpetual balance with nature, 9 out of 10 people will have to be eliminated. You think that's why they're doing the Ebola scare? Why they're threatening martial law, FEMA camps? The government's been on record for buying gazillions amounts of bullets and shipping drones and SWAT tank gear and uniforms to our military, I shouldn't say military, our city local police departments that now look like the military. And if they have to, they can push the nuke button. They've got underground facilities to go duck into. And all these wealthy people, the king and queens and the Cheneys and Bushes, probably have their tickets. Got your ticket? The second one, no doubt, has to do with sterilization and abortion. I also add that's part of the gay agenda. The third is extremely interesting. Unite humanity with a new living language. Remember when God stopped the construction of the Tower of Babel by confusing the languages? And like I said, I do pre-read this stuff most of the time. The fourth is a big problem for Christians, tempering our faith. Well, there's no leeway in God's 10 Commandments and believing in Jesus and not taking the mark of the beast. So tempering your faith and taking the mark damnates you to hell forever. So I don't think us Christians are going to go along with that. And we're certainly not going to break the 7th commandment, adultery, and go into the gay world of, what do you call that? Free sex everywhere. The 6th speaks to a world court, brings to mind a one world government. So you think some government over there in Italy or wherever they have the Pentagon is really going to want to be bothered with some little old people in some little old town in South Carolina or Mississippi? They just get on the phone and order a crackdown. Hunger Games the movie, Divergent the movie, they're warning us. Oh, the 9th sounds very Wiccan and New Age. What was the 9th one? Oh, prize, truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Yeah, that's the New Age religion with the rainbow. Get your yoga pants on, leaving nothing to the imagination, and go to the local shopping mall with skin-tight elastic yoga pants. And then if some guy looks at you, scream and call him a pervert. Crazy. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. So don't leave your footprint on the beach. The king won't like that. Alright, so that's a Mother Earth thing, which is also the New Age, the Luciferian thing. The earth is more important to them than humans. So the new 10 Commandments are all for the good of the earth. They are worshiping the creation, ignoring the Creator. We can look at the Bible and clearly see that everything Satan did was contrary to God's word. He started in the Garden of Eden and speaking lies to Eve so that she would doubt that which God had spoken to her. Aleister Crowley in his Book of the Law, do as thou wilt. So I suppose if you have the urge to go and murder a few people, you should be allowed to do that. But we need to get back to the beginning to truly understand Satan's mission here on earth. When he was still Lucifer, the most beautiful of all of God's created angels, he became jealous of God and sought to sit on God's throne instead of him. So there's more to this document, and there's plenty of proof here. You can go look it up. They describe many issues from the Bible about all this stuff. So I'm still a tad bit curious that the people who control our society, the New Age, Illuminati, Freemasons, Rosicrucians, occultists, Kabbalah people, Church of Satan, all that stuff, what do they have to do with the UFO and the aliens? So I thought I would interrupt this thing here and see if we could keep that in the back of our minds when we're reading this. It's the same people controlling our world, and the World Bank's causing the world wars and the Vietnamese War, the Korean War, the invasion of Panama, Iraq War, Middle East, 9/11, Oklahoma City bombing, World War I, World War II, the Civil War in the United States, the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, and the economic depression where the people build up their wealth. And then they crash the system, and these wealthy people rake in everything with poverty and food lines throughout the United States of America. Guess they got a great program going, and people are none the wiser. Alright, these officers saw, remember in Ohio, they're chasing this UFO from Ohio to Pennsylvania. Portage County sheriffs in pursuit, I think it's Michigan to Pennsylvania. Ultimately, the mysterious objects crossed over to the Ohio line into Pennsylvania. Well, I'm wrong, I was right. Where some local police officers also observed it. The object hovered for a while, and then just as the Air Force interceptor approached the scene, it shot straight up out of sight. That's where we left off. The Air Force Project Blue Book investigators, already under fire for past questionable explanations, conducted a hasty, superficial investigation and publicly announced that the sheriffs had been fooled by a combination of a Earth satellite and planet Venus. This clearly inadequate explanation created an even bigger uproar. The people were in an uproar. Why won't the people get in an uproar about sky spraying right now? Or that the U.S. president is picking a fight with Russia, sending an aircraft carrier into the Baltic, murdering all the people in the Middle East, instigated the Ukrainian thing, ousted the elected president, put in a puppet president, and 10 or 12 days later took 35 tons of the Ukraine gold and shipped it to the United States Federal Reserve or someplace. The poor Ukrainian people are much worse off. Should have never believed the revolutionary hype that was given them by the NATO, Zionist, Illuminati, Masonic controllers, Karl Marx people, Hitlerian type people, the deceivers worshiping Lucifer. Within days of the hearings occurred, the Air Force shakeup was underway. So that whole incident by the Air Force just ridiculing several state line crossings with police departments pursuing this aircraft flying low, the people just weren't going to buy the whitewash. Barry Greenwood, Dialogue, Science, UFO, and Organizations. And I remember what we're reading here, that I looked up from reading my nightcap letter, by the way. And I discovered this stuff. The Journal of UFO History. I just wanted to let you know what we're reading. November, December 2004. Keyword that stuff into the computer, and you can probably find some other reports for free like this one. So let's see what this dialogue between Barry Greenwood. Alright, Hall. Let's start with the standard newspaper-style question. How did you first get interested in UFOs? Greenwood. I had a natural interest in space growing up during the 1960s, when the exploits of the early astronauts were at a peak. I had noticed a few UFO stories in the press, particularly the Socorro, New Mexico incident, April 24th, 1964. I think I have that book that we looked at. I have to read. Alright, moving on, trying to wrap this up. Greenwood, military reports abounded during the 1960s. How could one dismiss UFOs where congressional hearings were ongoing and the Air Force was engaged in an active collection process? Mass sightings were compelling. Periodic waves of reports broke out during 1965 and 1967, where large numbers of witnesses had reported pretty much the same object or objects behaving strangely. How? Both of us at one point served on the board with MUFON. We both wound up resigning. Greenwood. With MUFON, I was assistant director for Massachusetts, which was as high as I wanted to go due to lack of time to take on more. But apparently he's talking about inside politics, so he resigned. Alright, Greenwood says I'm just reading portions of this, most of the people supporting UFO research have limited time and money and don't want to deal with the small details. They want to discover what is behind the phenomena, and the preference is that it is found to be evidence of extraterrestrials or some other exotic explanation, like maybe entities living on Earth all the time that survived the Great Flood with their technologies intact, maybe in the Himalayan mountains in Shambhala, maybe under the Earth that Hitler said was true. The Earth's a big planet. In the ocean, where ships for hundreds of years have seen saucers come up out of the water and go dive into the water. Maybe they've been here all along and they're operating behind the scenes, the secret behind the Freemasons, and causing the crash markets, stock markets and economy to crash in wars so they can rape in the wealth to support themselves while we citizens get used and abused on planet Earth for hundreds and thousands of years. Is that the case? Should we allow it to continue to go on and on with the planned depletion, now that they don't need humans with the new technologies, of eliminating 90% of the population, according to the Georgia USA Guidestones, which with the 10 Commandments that they indicated the opposite of God's commandments. So it goes right back to the spiritual, biblical, ancient text writings. The snake, the reptilian. Greenwood, the subject of ufology is in a crisis from my point of view. Of course it's in a crisis. The people who want to run the government and the powers behind the scenes of the money want it to be in a crisis. You think? And longtime fans, there isn't a whole lot of concerns for UFO reports anymore. They made the whole thing into a laughing stock. Alien invasion or human fantasy? 1966, 1967, UFO wave. It was a wave. And we are reminded of the night siege, 83 and 84. And the apparent knockdown of the Twin Towers, which some say was done by some satellite laser beam or something. Could the aliens or the spacecraft be involved in that? Blame it on the Arabs and their sandals and pocket knives, so we can kill all the Arabs, the homeland of the ancients, by the way. And then they talk about the returning planet Nibiru, the destroyer, the red star, the dark star, and the Anunnaki aliens coming to take back their planet. It sounds like a big setup to me. But will the citizens pay attention? Chronology of early UFO history, February, August 1951. Really dry weather here in North Carolina in the mountains today. Kind of warm out for March 13th, 14th. All right, here we go. February 19th, 1951, a large cigar-shaped UFO was observed hovering over Mount Kilimanjaro in Kenya, Africa, and reportedly was photographed from an aircraft. Wow. 51. May 22nd, 1951, an American Airlines pilot in the vicinity of Dodge City, Kansas, reported seeing a blue-white star-like object that moved backward and forward, then up and down, and finally dove below the aircraft and sped away. June 1, 1951, a technical intelligence officer based at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Dayton, Ohio, who later filed a confidential report on the incident with the NICAP, saw a stubby cigar-shaped object pacing parallel to his car at night. Its leading edge was brightly illuminated. The object made a sharp angle turn, then showing a circular outline and rapidly disappeared. July 9th, 1951, a P-51 fighter pilot airborne near Millersville, Georgia at 13:40 hours encountered a whitish disc flat on top and bottom, completely round, spinning in a clockwise direction. The object dove beneath the P-51, circled it for about 10 minutes before disappearing. Air Force Intelligence Report. July 14, 1951, a UFO which sped near a B-29 bomber above White Sands, New Mexico, was tracked on radar at a missile tracking site, observed visually and also photographed. Air Force Intelligence Report. Now that's suspicious by itself. You're at White Sands, New Mexico, the missile tracking site. Why would a UFO go there and play games other than to be seen? It's like trying to break into a prison so you can break into the Coke machine and get a free Coke. You think you'll get caught? July 23rd, 1951, Air Force pilots flying in the vicinity of Marchfield, California, saw a silver object circling high above them as the object was tracked on radar. Air Force intelligence report. August 11, 1951. A former Air Force fighter pilot in Portland, Oregon, saw 3 disc-like objects flying in formation. Report to NICAP. August 25, 1951. In Texas, the famous Lubbock lights, L-U-B-B-O-C-K, were observed on several successive nights. Formations of luminous objects passing overhead, and photographs were taken on August 30. Captain E.L. Rupert, chief of Project Blue Book, said that the individual lights shifted position according to a definite pattern. August 25, 1951, at 21:58 MST time, a Sandia-based guard at Albuquerque, New Mexico, observed what appeared to be a flying wing craft, low overhead, showing 8 pairs of soft glowing lights on the trailing edge. Air Force intelligence report. August 26, 1951, Air Force radar station in Washington State tracked a UFO headed northwest at 900 miles per hour on 2 different radar sets. Air Force intelligence report. August 1951, issue of Popular Science magazine reported the results of a survey conducted by the editors that asked witnesses to choose the most plausible explanation of UFOs. 70% believed the UFOs were intelligently controlled devices, either man-made or extraterrestrial. And there's a little bit more in here, nothing I'm going to review. But I'd like to end this video on one more note. There's 2 things on the back page here I'll read. The more the evidence accumulates, surely it is hard to deny, the worse it fits the original picture of Martians coming to Earth. Beings who can transform their appearances and produce appropriate scenery in such a prodigious way are by definition of supernatural character. So a lot of the UFO sightings and aliens could change their appearance, pop in and out of existence, walk through walls. One would call that supernatural. This report here was just a little disturbing, but I think I'll finish this video. It's got nothing to do with UFO and aliens, but it has everything to do with the New World Order, which seems related to the UFO and aliens activities. 1983, 1984, football field sightings all over Connecticut and New York. Building underground cities for the elites to go into for what's going to happen, I don't know. And a report from Iron Mountain saying they're going to cause all these craziness things to happen. And of course the Protocols of Zion, I suggest you go look up a copy of that and read it. And it explains they're going to cause all this chaos, economic and division, divide and conquer, on every issue that they can possibly do it, to confuse all the masses, who will never see it coming when the Zionists with the Illuminati take over the world and control everything from Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. So anyways, camera torn from ground less than 1 hour after being discovered. This little article here says the post office service caught deploying face scanning cameras. Remember I said the post office has also been caught buying bullets and guns. Look up this document. It's too much to believe. A face and license plate scanning camera was torn from the ground outside a Colorado post office this week, less than 1 hour after being discovered by local reporters. The camera, run by the U.S. Postal Service Law Enforcement Unit, was hidden inside a utilities box near the exit of the Golden Post Office. According to Fox 31 Denver investigator reporter Chris Haynes, representatives within the U.S. Postal Service denied conducting random surveillance, despite the camera appearing to capture every driver that left the property. What are they doing in 2015? Where even the post offices, especially after Snowden disclosed everything, they're not backing off, they're ramping up. And the Georgia USA Guidestone said they want to kill 90% of the people. We do not engage in routine or random surveillance. Cameras are deployed for law enforcement for security purposes, which may include the security of our facilities, the safety of our customers and employees, or for criminal investigations. U.S. Postal Inspector Pamela Dukey said employees of the Postal Inspection Service are sworn to uphold the United States Constitution, including protecting the privacy of the American public. Investigating the matter further, Fox 31 was unable to locate any criminal search warrants on file in the city, county, or federal court that related to the post office surveillance. Fox 31 Denver, and again, speaking backwards now, filed multiple Freedom of Information Act requests with the Postal Service. Anyways, they denied everything. Some people made some comments here. I'll read them and end this, because there are a lot of people who are aware of this ridiculous tyranny. Some people are blaming Obama. And then we know that it's just as bad under the Republican Party people. They all work for the same Masonic Lodge groups, Illuminati, bankster people. This all started many years ago. Both sides of the aisle play ball on the same team. That's what I just said. Doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or Democrat, they control your party. They are closing in on us like hawks from all directions. What would a young George Washington do in the face of tyranny? What would any of our founders do as children if they had high-powered, silent, muzzled air pistols? Cameras, cameras, cameras everywhere. This is why every stamp I stick on an envelope goes with the flag upside down. Wow. Oh, come on. The Postal Service would never put a sky camera on every utility box. You must all be a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists. The government loves us and swears an oath to protect our constitutional rights, including the Fourth Amendment. They would never spy on or record us without a warrant, not in America, and nor would they keep all the UFO intelligence away from the Americans. The U.S. Postal Service is only one of the federal agencies that purchased millions of rounds of various types of ammo, as I said. I'm not the only one who knows this. That resulted in an availability shortage, and price spikes for the average citizen consumers. Every time I go to the post office, they only have Chinese behind the desk. Did Obama give the Postal Service to China? My town has an Asian woman behind the counter. that can barely speak English and has a huge chip on her shoulder. That's too bad. Cameras anywhere. Paintball, anyone? Gotta love these people's comments. The Postal Service and all the employees are part of Obama's civilian army. Higher-up workers are trained in urban war combat. Alright. So you get my point here. It was obviously a huge cover-up with the UFO thing in the Air Force. I did read the NICAP report. We'll go over some more of this stuff in the next video. Thank you for watching my video. Please keep an open mind. I'm certainly not right on everything, but I, like many people, are digging at the truth, trying to see what the truth is and what's concerning and not concerning. And it seems like there's more concerning things these days. So we people probably need to pay attention and wake up. Rick Miracle reporting.